I think this camera is a game changer right here, for real. Like, I think the Fujifilm X-T3 is such a game-changing camera. It came out at a time where no camera was doing the shit that it was doing. 30 frames per second, blackout free on electronic shutter. You can do 4K 60, 10 bits at the time. This was in 2018. There was no camera that was doing this aside from the Panasonic GH, whatever it was. I think in 2023, 2024, this is one of the most underrated camera you can get. And if you can get a deal on this camera, you are getting a camera with so much value. With supply chain challenges and rising costs in the camera industry, the question of whether you need to upgrade to the latest and greatest becomes increasingly relevant. Can you still be perfectly content with a camera like the Fujifilm X-T3 in 2024? Let's dive in and find out together. Now let's kick things off by talking about the build quality, which in my opinion makes the Fujifilm X-T3 stand out as one of the last of its kind. Now this camera boasts a premium feeling body that's an absolute pleasure to hold. In comparison, my X-T5 feels a little bit lightweight, plasticky, and a little bit hollow. I prefer the ergonomics on the X-T3 over the X-T5 for show. Now the buttons and dials on this camera offers a tactile satisfaction that's hard to match, even by its successor, the X-T5. What's more, the X-T3 comes equipped with some features that were ahead of its time back in 2018, and it still holds up well today. It's weather sealed, it has dual card slots, and sports a pretty impressive electronic viewfinder, 3.69 million dots, which the Fujifilm X-T5 still use today. And additionally, the X-T3 boasts a 3-way tilt screen, which is distinct from the X-T4's flip-out screen. But if I'm being honest, there's one thing about the Fujifilm X-T3 that bugs me, and that is the battery life. The NPWS battery is, to put it bluntly, not great. You'll find yourself needing 5 to 6 of them to cover a full day of shoot. In contrast, the new battery on the X-T5 is such a significant improvement. It's so good that I'm confident I can get by with just one battery for a day of shooting. No need to lug around spares, it's that reliable. And the Fujifilm X-T3 excels at capturing outstanding photos. The sensor in this camera is nothing short of amazing. And here's how I know. It's the same sensor that graced every darn camera leading up to the X-T5. Find the sensor in the X-T4, the X Pro 3, the X100V, the XS10, the X-T30, and more. With this camera, you're in for a treat when it comes to color reproduction and Fujifilm's renowned color science. While it may lack the latest film simulations found in the newer models, whether that's a deal breaker for you is a decision you have to make when considering an upgrade. Now let's talk about the autofocusing. I gave it a quick test and I have to say that it performs well. The firmware has updated to version 5.0, let me check, 5.0, making the autofocusing system snappier than I remembered. Like eye tracking in particular feels much improved, although I personally still prefer using a single point and manually moving the focus box to the subject's eye with this camera because I still don't trust this camera for tracking. This method for me has consistently delivered excellent results. Again, I have more trust in the X-T5's autofocusing system and its tracking capabilities compared to this camera, the X-T3. The video quality offered from the Fujifilm X-T3 is quite impressive as well. Back when it was first released, it turned heads for being among the first camera to offer 4K at 60 frames per second and 10-bit. It can handle 10-bit 420 internally and it can do 10-bit 422 with an external HDMI source with Atomos Ninja. One standout feature is the ability to shoot at 30 frames per second with no viewfinder blackout, and it does this with a 1.25 times crop, something the X-T5 can't match. There's also one downside worth noting in this camera. That's the recording limit. With the X-T3, you can only record up to 30 minutes at a time, whereas the X-T5 offers essentially unlimited recording. This might be a consideration depending on your shooting needs. Now, speaking from my experience, the video footage produced by this camera is fantastic. I remember using it to film some of my YouTube videos and I was genuinely amazed by the quality it delivered. Even though I wasn't well versed in lighting and production techniques at the time, the footage still looked great. It gave me a taste of like high quality videos, and it's evident that this camera has the potential to produce stunning visuals even in less than ideal lighting conditions. Look, I understand that it might seem like I'm here to showcase the latest and greatest from Fujifilm. My goal is to keep you informed, not to necessarily to convince you to buy everything that I feature. But I'll be honest, if I didn't have this YouTube channel, I'd still be happily shooting with my trusty X-T3 right now. In my eyes, this camera was just way ahead of its time. Just look at the spec, 26 megapixel, 4K at 60 frames per second in 10-bit, and the ability to shoot 30 frames per second blackout free for those sports, for those fast sports and action shots. This camera was the flagship in its days, and Fujifilm poured everything into it. And that's why this camera still holds up today. It's that good, man. Like, I swear to God, it's still that good. With its dual SD card slots, the 26 megapixels, It's more than sufficient for most needs. And you want to know how I know this sensor still shines in today's age? And that's because the Fujifilm XS20, a camera released recently, sports this 5-year-old sensor, and it's still delivering excellent results. So if you're thinking of upgrading from an XT10, XT20 or something similar, and you're on a budget, keep your eyes peeled on the Fujifilm XT3 on the used market. You can find incredible deals now that this camera isn't the newest kid on the block. It's still fantastic and can serve as a great B cam or C cam or even your main A cam. Its image quality is superb and it's weather sealed, and the autofocus is more than capable. Sure, you don't get like the latest processor, but again, like when you shoot film photography, there's no autofocus in that. And how did people nail bird shots back in the day with film cameras? You know what I'm saying? So don't let that limitation be a barrier in creating good art. And sure, the battery life leaves something to be desired, but by now you probably have loads of spare lying around. So there you have it. These are my thoughts. I'd love to hear yours. Are you still rocking the XT3 in 2023? Let me know in the comments below. And if you found this video valuable, consider subscribing to my channel for more Fujifilm content. What a good looking camera.